Hello YouTube, this is Insane Monster, and as a special gift for the Easter special, you're getting another part to What If Asta Was the Avatar. Now then, before we start and such, as usual, please remember to make sure you watch the previous videos of this What If, and hope you're enjoying all of my What Ifs and such. Also remember to enjoy yourselves for this Easter. With all that said, hit it. Now then, when we last left off, there were quite a number of alterations to what happened due to Asta's capabilities in this What If. For one, Asta was able to use Rava's power as a way to separate the elf Veto from the human Veto's body that the elf Veto was possessing, and is currently in custody of the Clover Kingdom. After seeing the results of the recordings given to the Black Bowls by the game magic user who was the head priest of the Underwater Sea Temple, it has been decided that Julius will pick what will happen to him. With that, Asta, Charmy, and Finral were, along with Yami, were asked to go meet the most well-renowned healer of the Clover Kingdom. As they weren't sure what they were going there for since none of them got any serious injuries. Asta didn't even get his arm cursed like in canon. So, once they got there, they saw that the doc was examining Veto. This is human Veto, by the way. As Yami asked, what is he doing here? The doc stated, oh, that? Well, to be honest, the Wizard King asked me to do a thorough examination of him, and even showed me the recording that you brought from the Sea Temple. With Yami stating, really, and what did you find? The doc said it's interesting and unusual. Besides his own mana, there seems to be traces of mana that isn't his still lingering in his body. It pretty much proves what we saw on the recording. Something was taking over his body and using its power through him. He does have a remarkable amount of mana and an interesting magic type, but all in all, the person that body originally belonged to didn't do anything, at least directly against our laws. To Since he wasn't the one who fought, or at least his body wasn't the one who fought against Phlegolion that took his arm. Not only that, the fight that he did get into didn't cause any serious injuries. So there is that. Which the Wizard King actually told me to pass a message on to you. As Yami looked curious, he states, this individual shall now be in the care of the Black Bulls for the time being. And Yami, yes, he did have he had the same look as usual when he talks about this kind of stuff. Which Yami just imagines him with sparkle eyes, wondering how he'll do. With Yami stating, ugh, this is really troublesome, Doc. As Beto asked, so I'm going with the Black Bulls. With Yami stating, looks like it, as the doc gestured over to an individual that the Wizard King also sent along. With him is a tray with 3 bands that looked similar to what the Magic Parliament uses to track keep track of individuals. Yami asked why so many. It was the Wizard King's suggestion as a way to keep some individuals comfortable with this arrangement. As two of them were clamped on to each of Veto's wrist and one of them was clamped onto his neck, they disappeared. These are to monitor him to make sure he doesn't run away. And Yami is responsible for him, which Yami just kind of scoffs at, being annoyed, as he says, "Fine, then let's get going." As Veto is given a cloak with a hood on it to hide his appearance, since things are still kind of high in tension. Yami tells him that he's forbidden to use his magic until they get to the Black Bull's hideout and see what he can do. Yami wants to examine what he can do now that he isn't possessed anymore before having him use any magic in combat. Which is somewhat reasonable, even though he's fought the Veto that possessed this human Veto. He has no idea what the original owner of that body is capable of in a fight without his body being controlled by something possessing it. As they leave, as it turns out, the Diamond Kingdom is currently attacking, with a total number of 3 signing generals attacking. As this goes on, Yami hurries off and hurries to go fight the Diamond Kingdom, as well as the Golden Dawn coming in. As this goes on, due to the fact that Yami and the others were held up with a bit of an explanation, they didn't get to meet up with Yuno and everybody else earlier, like in canon. Though Asta quickly went into the fight, telling Charmy and Vinral to watch Veto. As Charmy was okay with it, just giving Veto a cupcake, with Vinral thinking, "Seriously?" As Asta gets into the battle, striking down mage after mage of their soldiers, striking them, the ones on the flying carpet, down with strong bursts of wind from his airbending, as well as setting some of the carpets on fire with firebending. As this continued, like in canon, Longres goes up against the Shining General that uses mucus magic, which, oh god, grossest sounding magic I have ever heard. Mucus magic, ugh. But as he goes to attack the Shining General, who has a number of Clover Kingdom citizens as hostages, Asta stops him, blocking his spatial magic with his sword, telling him, "What are you thinking? Those are our people. We're supposed to protect them." As Longra states, they're in the way, and sacrificing themselves for the kingdom's sake and safety is the honor that they should be able to endure. As he clenches his fist, Asta yelled, "That isn't what Magic Knights do. If you're not gonna help them, I will." As Longra scoffs at this, thinking he's weak, Finral runs up as he sees his younger brother and yells at Asta, stating, "I'll back you up." At Asta, who recently went to a market to grab some water pouches that he has now pulled out to draw all the water out of them, which is quite a lot of water to fully encase his arms, creating water whips, but using the ends to surround the handle of the Demon Slayer and Demon Dweller sword, freezing them to make an ice handle around the handle of the sword. This is something he came up with after the training with Luck using that seaweed stuff, and also after learning how to fight with a certain flow thanks to the practice he got from fighting in the underwater sea temple, using it as a way for mid-range fighting, slicing the mucus magic into nothingness, releasing the people. He swings back using the flat of the blade to strike the Shining General, sending him back as he yells at his men to attack. Asta, retreating the water back into the pouches he got, then uses the metal bar, well, the metal bar things that were made as a pack on his back, if you remember from a couple of parts ago, as a way to shoot out metal bands, snagging the Shining General's wrists and ankles, forcing them together, and even going and wrapping some around his neck and metal bending them to pull the Shining General right towards Asta. As he tried to use his mucus magic, however, Asta used more bands to wrap up his grimoire, sealing it. This obviously caused the Shining General's men to go after Asta to fight. General used his spatial magic to help cover Asta, as he jumped up into the air using airbending to strike the ones that were flying onto the ground, and firebending to burn the carpets and the brooms that they were using to fly, so that they could be prevented from going airborne again. After that, Asta noticed the barrels full of rainwater that were scattered across the street and used his water bending to break them, flooding the street with water. As they were confused about what he's thinking, Asta began moving his hands in a certain way that began to generate lightning. As they were confused about what this kid is, they started firing magic, which was then sent back at them using Finral's spatial magic to make portals. Once Asta was done, he fired off a shot of lightning to the water on the ground, electrifying all of the Diamond Kingdom mages that were standing in the water, as they all fell down, with the Shining General Asta just captured yelling, What is this? What the hell are you?" As he tries to wiggle out, Asta lifts him up and punches him in the gut to knock him out. As he hoists him over his shoulder, grabbing his grimoire, now capturing a Shining General. As for he's already also dealt with one of the Shining Generals that used lightning magic, as the captain of the Golden Dawn used his magic to absorb the enemy's mana and capture them. After dealing with the Red Clay Shining General, Yami did ask him the same thing as in canon, being somewhat curious how they have similar energy to them, with William and the leader of the Eye of the Midnight Sun. He probably would ask Asta, but he's not around, and he's also probably dealing with all this mess too. So he'll leave it be for now, as he asked about his mask. William was willing to trust Yami with it, and took off his mask, revealing the mark on his face that was apparently some kind of curse. As Yami was satisfied now, since it wasn't something that William was doing to his face or anything, and he didn't sense any magic disguising Lick's face either. So they might have similar ki, but they don't have but they don't seem to be the same person. To his knowledge, such a drastic change in appearance would not be likely with their types of magic. With that, Yami met up with Asta again as Yuno and such also came by, with Klaus stating, "Is that a..." as Asta smirked, stating, yep, one of these guys. Looks like they were leading the army." As Klaus said, "Asta, that's one of the shining generals of the Diamond Kingdom. They're basically the Diamond Kingdom's equivalent of our Magic Knight captains." As he says, "Huh, really?" With Yami laughing, stating, "Not bad, kid," slapping him on the back. As Asta puts him down, Yuno is just smirking, as Belle is somewhat freaking out. Asta notices this and asks Yuno what's with the little, winged girl. As Belle freaks out, hiding behind Yuno. Yuno asks Belle, "What's the matter, Belle? You don't normally act like this. Normally you're all loud and, uh, acting all confident." As Belle states, "Are you kidding me? What is he?" Pointing at Asta, causing Asta to flinch, wondering what she means. Confusing everybody, she states, "This kid, he doesn't have any magic, but his presence is of the highest order of spirit, one even higher than mine. I didn't even know that was possible." As she's somewhat scared at the amount of the sheer pressure his presence as being bonded to Rava is giving off, causing her to be very afraid and very confused. As he also remarks, and he used multiple elements. How does that work?" Yuno states he doesn't use magic. He just uses the elements more like an extension of his body rather than a weapon like we use our magics. With Belle yelling, "How does that make any sense?" With Klaus remarking, "It's true, it doesn't really make that much sense, but apparently Asta's half spirit, so it's natural that there be quite a number of unknowns." With her yelling, "What? Only half?" As they did part ways. Once they got to the hideout and Yami told them to welcome their new member, they took a look at what Yami's thinking as the hood comes off of Veto and they start freaking out, getting ready for another fight. With Yami telling them to calm down and explaining the whole situation. As Veto gets on his knees and bows, asking for everyone's forgiveness. Even if he wasn't in control of his body when they fought and almost literally killed them, it was still his body that did it, even if he wasn't in control. And he asked them to forgive him. And even if they don't forgive him now, they'll keep working in order to earn their forgiveness if he has to. This veto was vastly different from the one they faced, almost to the point that it was somewhat surreal hearing him talk like this. As Vanessa stated, well, we did see some kind of spirit get basically exorcised out of his body, and it did seem like that was the one controlling it. So, I guess it's okay? As other Black Bulls aren't sure what to think about this, but sigh as they hear Yami state that it's something that the Wizard King thought of. He seems to have a large amount of magic power, and having him on our side could help deal with the Eye of the Midnight Sun. As they are nervous about this, but decide to go along with it. As they were just relaxing Asta was continuing his training, practicing his water bending, which he has gotten quite better at ever since going to the Underwater Sea Temple to get more inspiration, though still trying to figure out the whole thing with the Avatar state. He's gotten lucky a couple of times, using it in blind rage, as well as being linked spiritually from Korra in the Underwater Sea Temple, but he needs to learn how to do it himself. This is when they get an urgent call from the Wizard King, as he states that they need them to help out, as they recognized movements ahead of time of the Diamond Kingdom's movements going to the Witch's Forest. It, not just that, they've also recognized movements coming from somewhere else, heading toward the Witch's Forest as well. And upon using magic to view it remotely, it's the Eye of the Midnight Sun. They're moving somewhat fast, but they won't be there for a couple of hours. They should make preparations and hurry. As they think about it, Asta remembers someone that they know that would be of use dealing with the Diamond Kingdom, and someone who could help them out dealing with the uh, people in the Witch's Forest, as Vanessa is tight-lipped about it. So Asta went and suggested that they go see his teacher that trained him when he was training for the Magic Knight entrance exam, helping him learn the sword. As they do go visit him and his wife do welcome him along with his student that sided with him after the incident with the diamond mages that came after him at the Black Bull's hideout. He agrees to help them and states that it would be somewhat troublesome if things got out of hand, and with the witch's force being attacked by two enemies, it would be problematic. As they get to the edge of the witch's forest, Vanessa and Asta, the wife of Asta's master. I do apologize for the names and such, but this anime has a lot of names to remember. As they do go into the witch's forest, meeting with the witch queen. As they inform her about the two invading armies, he remarked that she does know about them. As he also asked why are they here. They state that they're here because the Wizard King asked them, and also this is where they were born. It wouldn't feel right just sitting around as it was attacked, as they have reinforcements. As he takes a look using her magic, noticing that there's men there, she somewhat sighs and remarks, "Fine. If it will help deal with these enemies, then so be it. I would rather not have my children fight these enemies," as he's referring to the witches as he sees them as her children that should obey her. But the two in front of her are disobedient, as he remarks, "But make no mistake, any help I give will be needing payment, understand?" As they gulp, beginning to leave, worried about what she meant by that. As the fight starts off, obviously they split up, as they modified the witches' dolls that they use for security to help boost their combat ability in order to help fight off the Diamond Kingdom with the witches. Some of the Black Bulls were sent off to the Diamond Mages as well, while we get the normal ones as in canon. Though a number of people were at the home base to watch over it with Veto. So it's basically still the same lineup as in canon. As Asta uses his glider to fly right towards the Eye of the Midnight Sun, the fight begins. Obviously, this starts off with Fauna firing a large breath attack using Salamander, with Asta pulling the wings of his glider back and using wind to blast the flames away as a way to cause them to go around them, with Vanessa using her thread magic to hold them up. This does work well as Asta is given the signal to attack. He fires off an attack that goes directly for Salamander, as it's able to dodge only to have the sea dragon's roar coming as it turns, striking Salamander from behind. With this, she then begins to use her flame and mineral magic together, which is when Mars comes in, yelling at Fauna, trying to get her to remember who she is. As she fires off magic, being confused by this, Asta runs up to Mars asking what is he talking about, as he explains that that's Fauna, with Asta's master also remarking, "It is. I thought she died," as he explained that she was one of the children experimented on in order to have those magic stones implanted into their bodies. As the battle was going well, up until the confusion that Fauna was going through from the individual of who human fauna is and elf fauna taking over the body are somewhat struggling with their confused memories from both of them. Fauna is forced into a state similar to the one Veto took, with the eye on the forehead and the pointed ears. With this, Asta states that they have to get the Fauna and use his anti-magic sword to stop her. As Mars remarks, seems like the best idea, as they look at the salamander forming around her into a giant spear. Mars remarks, "What the hell? She, she just turned herself into a bomb." As he hurries up, going to Fauna, along with Asta following suit. As he uses the healing phoenix robe to rapidly heal them as they continue forward. As they do get closer and closer, Fauna is writhing from the confusion that she's under right now, as they're able to get close enough for Asta to cancel out the magic, which is causing Fauna, the elf Fauna, to be loosened, which causes human Fauna to be back. After that, things calm down quite a bit, with a sigh of relief. This is until Lagris, one of the other Shining Generals besides March, came and began his attack. As many of the magic knights that they were fighting with were injured quite a bit, Asta had to fight him. Using his anti-magic swords to fend off his attacks that he was firing from some barrier, he had trouble since firing them back using reflection from his Demon Slayer sword only gave him magic to use again, so that wasn't helping. As Astas had enough, he slammed his foot onto the ground, shooting an earth pillar from underneath him, giving him some air as he launches the demon dweller sword straight at him, stabbing him in the shoulder. As he lost control of his magic, he fell, as Lagris yells that that Asta says stay away from him. Leave me alone. What are you doing? As he's able to distract Asta with pleas and speeches, he grabs Fauna. As Fauna is freaking out, she uses her magic, which Lagris just absorbs, turning into the form we remember from the anime, where he's glowing red from Fauna's magic he absorbed. As he fires off attacks at Asta again, he tries to not only get rid of them with his swords, but tries to stop them with his firebending, redirecting them. But they're coming at him too fast and too powerful for him to get all of the blasts, causing him to be hit quite badly. As he Lagris is about to strike all of them, destroying them, Asta felt something. It was the devil inside his grimoire, stating, "Huh, how pitiful." With Asta remarking, "Now's not the time." With the queen looking at this, he uses her magic and heals Asta's body real quick. He notices this, but feels something else happening to him. As the Witch Queen states, "It seems as though you have a bit of a block keeping you from your true potential. I'll unleash that." As Asta is now healed and he is now fully meeting the devil all by himself, as he remarks, "It seems as though your current self can't handle him. So, how about I take over and I deal with him?" With Asta refusing that he'll be the one to fight him. Of course, this causes a struggle as Asta is grabbed by the devil, and Asta looks as though he's coming out with horns and wings on him, only to reveal a dark spear around him as it opens up, revealing Asta with a horn and a wing on his right side, as well as a darkness covering his right arm, encroaching on his torso and his face. As he sighs, Rava remarks about this form and that it looks dangerous. As Asta goes straight towards Lagris, he nullifies his magic one after another, even using his bending to strike at him, firing earth from the ground underneath him to strike at him when he could, going as in cannon as he uses black meteorite to strike at him, causing him to fall to the ground. As he spits up some blood with the magic stones destroyed that were embedded into his body, he looks up at Asta, telling him to finish it. As Rava was worried, Asta just yells out, "Are you kidding me? That wouldn't solve anything," as he remarks that he was going to apologize for everybody for all the harm and trouble he caused, and he was also going to help fix everything he messed up. As Longra just burst out laughing from this, remarking that he can't beat Asta. As everybody calmed down a bit, with nobody able to move anymore from being exhausted, Asta remarked as he sighed, "Huh, looks like I'll have to carry all you guys later." As his body just began writhing in pain once the blackness stopped, as this was some backlash from the first time using this. The Witch Queen came down and stated, "It looks like you took care of things." As Asta smirked, remembering what he was told about the Witch Queen, he stated, "Yeah, thanks for healing me, by the way, and whatever else you did." As he states, "Well, I did tell Vanessa that if I gave any assistance your forces, then I will require payment. As he asked, what do you mean? As Vanessa yells out, Asta, run! Asta is then caught by her bloody puppet as he's forced into the Black Asta form again, being forced into this as the Witch Queen puts everybody on bloody crucifix. He remarks that she was going to take this boy. She herself cannot use this anti-magic sword, so if she cannot use it, she'll own the one who can. As he also looks at Vanessa, and I'll also be taking you. But first, we'll deal with your friends and these intruders. Forcing Asta to go towards Noelle. Vanessa is worried as she's begging her to stop, resulting in creating her magic, creating a cat out of the red thread ruse. As for inside Asta, he was barely aware what was going on, as Aura and the others met with him, that it's now or never. As Asta remarks, what do you mean? Aang walked up to him and stated, this situation is one I myself was in, and by having to choose to do the hardest thing, I was able to activate the avatar state, though it went differently for me. But if you can do it, you can save all of your friends. As he explains that he has to let go of everything, let go of all that attaches him to this world. It was hard, but he had no choice as he saw his friends being attacked and his body being controlled. He couldn't do anything. Watching as his body was going closer to the well with the sword, he went over to the path that was inside of his spiritual landscape. He walked over to a lumined version of himself with glowing eyes, going into an orb that was in between the hands of this spiritual version of him. It was being surrounded by him, and he was no longer able to see what was going on outside. As for outside, same thing was happening as in canon, as Rude stopped Asta from harming Noelle twice. As Asta finally achieved it, his eyes began to glow and he stopped moving, with the Witch Queen stating, "What's going on?" Asta stated, "Blood bending. Self-blood bending technique. I'm taking back my body." Breaking the spell from the blood puppetry, he looked at the Witch Queen with glowing eyes. As wind began to swirl around him, he then began to control the water nearby, creating a ring around him of water, and then lifting up large boulders, crushing them, compressing them, causing another ring made out of earth to be formed around him, and lastly, shooting fire from his hands, feet, and mouth, creating a ring of fire. As he's still in Black Asta mode, the elements he is controlling right now are now being influenced by the anti-magic, having streaks of dark in them. This being anti-magic infused in the elements he's using in the combination of Black Asta mode and the Avatar state. As the Witch Queen shoots over towards Vanessa, trying to at least take her and hopefully use her as a hostage to get control of Asta again, Rude pats the queen on the forehead, stopping her. As Vanessa gives her same speech as always, that her magic will always side with her and those that she has a connection with. And that the reason why it won't help her is because they never had a connection. After this, the Witch Queen calmed down quite a bit. The Diamond Kingdom mages were given the medicine from the Witch Queen that would help them fix what was going on with the Diamond King, but also puppeteer him as a way to help fix things that are going on within their country. As they met with the Witch Queen, she describes the swords that Asta is using as being something wielded by the leader of the elves, and stating that there are plenty of unknowns as of right now. But she has a feeling that they'll get through it, as Nero lands on her shoulder, pecking at her earring. She remarks, "Oh yes, and I believe I know what the Eye of the Midnight Sun came after. And if it's the reason why they came and attacked in such numbers, I'd rather not have it in my possession anymore." Taking off the jewel from her earring, tossing it towards Asta, as he recognizes it as a magic stone that they were after. They thank her as they left, with Vanessa thanking Asta, with everyone asking, "Wait, what did you do to break free of her magic?" Asta smirks as he closes his eyes and states, as he sounds as though there are hundreds of other voices besides his, talking in unison, stating, "I've learned to control the avatar state." As his eyes go back to normal, smirking. Once they got back to the hideout, Asta was congratulated for controlling that crazy state that he's shown them so many times, as Yami is looking forward to see him surpass his limits even more. With this, we'll be ending this part of the What If. I do hope you liked it. As for anything else concerning this part and the last one, well, if you're wondering about the dance mate from last time, I didn't really say his name because his only two characteristics that are notable are that he wants to be a famous dancer and he's a simp for Noel, so I didn't really use his name. So yeah, with that, I do hope you enjoyed. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell to be updated for new videos, and hope to see you next time. Later.